to another edition of Highways and Hometowns. My name is Patrick Tarleton. That right there is Ron Reichert. We are joined today by Carol Haddock. For many of you, you knew Carol as her work with the Houston Public Works Department. We know Carol because she is the nicest person that you will see at any event in both Southeast Texas and CECon. So with that, Carol, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the background.
Thank you, Patrick and Ron. It's my pleasure to join y'all today. So my background, I'm a small town kid. I grew up in South Texas, grew up mostly around Uvalde, Texas, born in Crystal City, graduated from Uvalde High School, go Coyotes, and moved to Houston, moved to the big city to go to college. And that's where I began my engineering career at Rice University. I went from being kind of a big shot in a small town to being average in a big town. And it was definitely one of those things that is a very humbling experience when all of a sudden you are surrounded by many, many people that are smarter than you and more talented than you. And that's where you learn motivation and perseverance. And it's a lot of fun in doing that. But back in my childhood for just a minute, I grew up in Flash Flood Alley. And so drainage and watersheds and flooding has been part of my family's DNA for generations. My granddad was on a water conservation board. We've been in the water field for multiple generations in my family because water is so critical to the present and it's so critical to the future. When you look at Texas and you look small towns, big cities, it doesn't matter. Water is such a critical part of the future.
I think it is incredible. I'm going to share a little bit. In a previous life, I was the chief of staff for a state representative that covered Uvalde Del Rio all the way out to West Texas, Alpine. I did not know your family was involved in that water conservation district. The Uvalde Water Conservation District is one of the oldest in the state. It was one of the very first conceptualized. That is so awesome.
Yeah,
it is in your blood because that was one of the very first.
Absolutely. The whiskeys for drinking, waters for fighting is definitely one of those things that we are taught out there.
Sure.
And I will say, when I moved to Houston, that was one of my first impressions of Houston. I was like, what are all these people doing? I mean, like they're just, and I'll say, I used to call it water waste. It's not necessarily waste. It's just a less efficient use of the resource that we have than people that don't have enough. They learn different ways to interact with their water.
Okay, so for those of us that don't know, where did you go to college?
So I went to Rice University for my undergraduate, and then I jumped across town and went to the University of Houston for a public administration degree. So I always win the Bayou bucket every time they...
That is so fantastic. Okay, so from there, how did your career take you from out of college? As you know, there's so many students that are here at CECon, so I'm sure they're now going to be tuning in. We interviewed like 10 of them. It was the joy of Ron and I's entire time here. But tell us how you went from student to Houston Public Works Director.
So absolutely. So I at my time at Rice, I actually got the opportunity to work for one of the professors there, doing support work for expert testimony and things like that. But then when I got out, I basically went into private consulting, and I went to a small consulting firm in Houston and did watershed planning, drainage support for transportation, all those sorts of things that I spent hours. Back then, you would do we did HEC 1, HEC 2, not a HEC HMS and RAS, but you would do a model, and you would pray, you would hit go, and you would go home, and you'd come back the next day and hope that you hadn't had an error. And so whether it was large Trinity River modeling to subdivision modeling to detention basin design, that was how I cut my teeth, and that's how I got my first 6 years of experience, got my professional engineer's license while I was at that job. And when I decided to go get my master's, that's when I made a jump and jumped from private consulting to the Harris County Flood Control District. I was looking for a little bit, I'll say work-life balance, but really what I was looking for was predictability. And in consulting, a lot of times with deadlines and stuff, you just don't have that predictability. So when I was looking to get my master's degree, I had a lot of opportunities to go get a professional master's or an engineering master's. And at the end of the day, I decided for me, as a civil engineer in the drainage arena, What I needed to understand was how governments work. How do governments create budgets? How do governments fund things? How are projects picked? How does the government interface with the infrastructure needs? And I found for me that was the public administration degree. And so I went to the University of Houston, which had a wonderful part-time evening master's degree program, and I was able to do that while still working full-time.
Wow.
So
and that is a challenge.
It was a challenge, and they considered 6 hours full-time. And so I was a full-time night student and did it in 3.5 years because in the midst of that degree, Tropical Storm Allison hit. And all of a sudden I could only take 3 hours a semester because I was having to deal with the additional work that was going on at the flood control district trying to help people recover from that. Another amazing thing that I got to do during my time at the flood control district is I got the opportunity, always be looking for those opportunities to grow, those opportunities to learn. Because I had finished my public administration degree, I was approached by the American Society of Civil Engineers. Thank you, CECON, and thank you, ASCE. And I was selected to do a 1-year congressional fellowship. And so I spent a year in Washington, D.C., and you had to go find your own office to work for, and I went and found a job in the Senate Office of Environment and Public Works. Worked for the staff of Senator Inhofe for a year, and my job for a year was working on WRDA legislation, the Water Resources Development Act. So that was 2004. The bill that I worked on did not pass till 2007, which is actually pretty common and one of those lessons you have to learn.
That's fast, yeah. 3 years, you did great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that was part of that. And then when my year was over, I came back to Houston because it was a 1-year fellowship. And the city of Houston approached me and said, hey, we need somebody to head up our capital planning and our long-range planning. And so I went to the city of Houston. I picked up not just the storm drainage that I was so comfortable and loved, but I picked up water, wastewater, and streets in the long-range planning. Did that for about 12 years, and then moved over to design and construction for a short period. And then I was tapped as acting director and ultimately appointed as director, which I did for almost 7 years.
I love hearing the story. And people will connect. Everybody wants to know, okay, how did someone get to where they're at? So thank you for sharing. Totally off script.
Yep.
What do you do now? Are you enjoying time with family, friends? What do you do for fun?
Remodeling the house.
Okay, great.
Yeah, all the above. And for everybody out there that doesn't know, I was the director of public works till the end of May. And when you get a new administration, it's really pretty common for there to be changes in leadership as they bring in the team that they're comfortable working with, and that's part of transition. So I am taking the rest of the year off. And taking it off, it's given me time to go out and visit my parents, still out in the Uvalde area. It's taken time for my husband and I to take a trip. We just got back from Michigan. It's always good to escape the Texas heat, and in particularly late August, early September. I have been doing the stuff that I didn't get to do during COVID. I've been cleaning out closets and emptying drawers in the kitchen, and you joke about that.
No.
But
I talked to Will.
Yeah. My husband wants me to go back to work because he comes home and I've got 27 half-done projects because I do something till I get bored and then I do something else.
Okay, so we're not going to pick on Houston Public Works. I know that's the one that we should focus on, but we're not going to do that.
Oh, you're
welcome.
I will defend them and cheerlead them.
This is what I want to say about one thing. Two of the finest people I know, one worked there and one now is off to bigger and better things. Michael and Veronica were just the apple of the tree. They are so wonderful, and every time I talk to them, they talk about how you uplift folks. Talk a little bit about how important that is to build a good team and empower folks. And again, I know Veronica left. Veronica Davis, big shout out. Her and Michael are the two people that we've had a lot of interaction with, and they're both just gems. We love them. But talk about empowering folks.
I learned early in my life. I mean, I have a lot of confidence in my abilities, and I believe I can solve any problem out there. And I learned very early in not my life as much as my professional career, that all of us are smarter than me. And that if you get the right team around you and you empower that team, and you create an environment where they don't feel stifled and where they feel like their voice matters and they feel like they can bring solutions to the table. And don't use they, because othering people is really a bad thing. But where the team feels that it has a collective voice, then you're going to end up with, you're still going to make mistakes sometimes, but you're going to end up with the best possible outcome and solution. And you're going to end up with a team that identifies the potential pitfalls, and if a mistake has been made, identify it before it becomes a catastrophe. And so I'm just a huge believer that you start with respecting the person first. And once you've established that foundation of trust and respect, then everybody can be a part of the solution.
And let me add to that, interacting with Houston Public Works employees at TPWA conferences or wherever it might be, to a man or a woman, we love Carol. We love Miss Carol. So you did a fantastic job of making your employees feel like they're part of a family, and that fosters loyalty, it fosters hard work, fosters people doing what they need to do. And I would say you may not have heard that a lot, but to a man and a woman, when I interact and talk to them about Carol, Miss Carol, excuse me, got to get it right, they love Carol. So, I mean, that's a beautiful example of leadership at its finest actually paying off.
You know, Chris and Fabio are going to be really mad if we don't mention them too.
Of course.
So there's your shout out, fellas. All right.
Yeah.
You know, something you did really well is empower them to get involved in the community. You're the Houston Public Works staff more than any other across the state, and I'll say this, others can learn from you guys on allowing your employees and representatives to interact with outside organizations like ASCE and others. So, okay, talk to us about ASCE. How long have you been engaged with it? I heard this story about the conception and ideas behind CECon. You two, let it go. Start running.
Yeah, well, so we've both been involved with ASCE since we were members of student chapters. Wow. So I was a member at Rice. I was not an officer, but I was a member. Ron, I know you were a member at Rensselaer.
At Drexel, and then when I moved to Houston in '99, Carol was the first one I met at an ASCE meeting.
I was probably sitting at the reception desk or something.
Or something, but to tell you what Carol was really like, I mean, she welcomed me. I was the new guy, and I'd never been to a meeting there before. She's like, "Hey, come on in." Was friendly, nice. So, I mean, that doesn't surprise you to hear that, does it?
So I've done local, state, national, global now, we call it. But I've been elected. I've been volunteer committee member. But at the end of the day, it's been about where can I show up and provide benefit? Where can I show up and provide, whether it's showing up on a Saturday morning at the Children's Museum to help inspire the next generation, or it's volunteering to be elected to the national board and serving 3 years on the national board. It's just, that's in my DNA and my family is, show up.
I love that. I know we're running short on time, but I do want to ask one thing. Excuse me. I do want to ask one thing about one challenge and one opportunity facing very large public works departments across the country.
So, nationally, internationally, workforce, obtaining, securing, resourcing, maintaining, retaining workforce is a significant challenge for every public works agency out there. And when I say that, and we're here at an engineering conference as engineers, but of the 4,000 men and women in Houston Public Works, the vast majority, more than 3,000 of the employees were not engineers. And so one of the things that I would say, particularly to the engineers that are watching this, is that multidiscipline team is critical to your success. And so one of the challenges we face is ourselves in recognizing the value of that multidiscipline team. The other is just that the economy, the value that our society puts on infrastructure and puts on The funding for infrastructure is a struggle. So the opportunity, I'm going to transition to that, is that you need to be part of the voice in helping people understand that roads aren't free, and helping people understand that drainage isn't free, and helping people understand these things, that just like when you buy your car, you still have to change the oil, and you still have to get new tires, and you still have to invest in that vehicle and maintain it so that it lasts as long as possible, that you don't just build infrastructure and walk away from it, that you have to build it and you have to operate it and you have to maintain it. And so the opportunity for us as public works employees and engineers in the industry is have those conversations. Engineering, the math may be hard, but the concepts aren't. People get that they want the water to come out when they turn on the faucet. People get that they want the roads to work and the signals to work and the storm drainage to work. And they understand the basic concepts of these things. And so we need to be part of helping people when they're looking at the priorities of things, that they understand the importance of investing in the infrastructure and are supportive of that.
I love it.
That actually sounds like a stump speech for a future mayor of Houston, doesn't it?
You heard the rumor here first.
No. We've been joking about that for years.
We've been joking. So I will tell you the current response my husband gives me, and my husband Will knows me all too well. He says, "You would make a great mayor. You would make the worst candidate in history."
Well, listen, you make the best mentor and administrator, and someone that people that are young in this industry like I am, or haven't been here a while. I'm certainly not young, but I haven't been here a while. You inspire us to stay in it. So thank you for the smiles. Thank you for always greeting us. Thank you for making us feel welcome, both in Houston and other places across the state. You've been a joy to work with. So, and I hope you're around. I hope you stick around. You don't.
Oh, I'm not going anywhere.
That's what I like to hear. Ron, what else you got?
I'm just going to say, we touched on CECon. So Carol, having been one of the original creators, a few of us, what do you think, from that 2003 late night meeting in the bar in South Padre Island where the CECon was conceptualized?
On the beach, the bar on the beach.
Yes, exactly, to now.
I have to say.
What do you think?
I have to say, I am so proud of this organization because it was a drastic, it was kind of one of those generational change. I mean, it was like a shock change.
Absolutely.
And there were a lot of people that were uncomfortable for a while. But what I think is probably the most healthy is that as I talk to people about it now, that there is deliberate action to continue evolving CECon. And that's the sign of a healthy organization and a healthy thing, is that we didn't evolve it, carve it in stone, and we're done, and that most of us that were in that original change, we're still involved in participating, but we're not the ones leading it now. And so there's been a real healthy transition. There's some significant evolutions. We're going back from just we went from one location to two, and it's going back to where it's going to move a little bit around the state. That's just it's healthy to listen to the people that are coming to these things and respond, and respect the wishes of the attendees.
Yes, something that never used to get done.
I'll say it, from an attendee perspective, you all built the finest civil engineering conference in the country. This one is the best opportunity. It's intimate, but it has enough substance. It's small enough, but engaging enough that it feels big. It truly is the preeminent civil engineering conference around the country. And so without your forethought and foresight, it wouldn't have happened. And I love that you're allowing it to evolve into things. It's now the 3-day show that everybody comes to: suppliers association, nonprofits, engineering firms, contractors. Everyone comes. So big kudos to you. Big kudos to the ASCE Texas section. Again, thank you for allowing us to do the podcast, and thank you for being on it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks, Carol.
All right.
Appreciate it.
On behalf of Ron, my name is Patrick Tarleton. Thank you for signing in, and we hope to see you next episode.